right? What happened? The veil in the temple was rent. Okay, the Spirit left. The Spirit's no longer sanctifying those things. Okay, where did the Spirit go? The Spirit is now engrafted within our hearts. This begins with the seal of the Spirit. Okay, this is the baptism of fire. Okay, the baptism of the Spirit, which God bears witness to that baptism with tongues. Okay, which is that manifestation of tongues. Okay, which confirms the engrafting of the Spirit, which is necessary for us to make application with the knowledge. We have to also then receive instruction through his spiritual government. Okay, to function with that knowledge to make application with this power. Okay. Same thing with power tools, right? You need to be instructed in how to use a power tool, or else you can end up misusing it and getting hurt, okay, or doing a lot of damage, right? I mean, take like a power sander, for instance. If you don't know what you're doing with that, and you take it to a nice piece of oak, okay, you can destroy that very expensive piece of wood instead of turning it into a nice piece of furniture or something that's, of functional use or value or of beauty, right? Well, instead, you can destroy it, and you can do it very, very quickly with a power tool, okay? It's a little bit takes you longer to destroy something with manual tools, but with a power tool you can do a lot of destruction. Okay, or you can also very quickly turn that into something that's of great beauty or a great functional value. Okay, but the difference is knowledge. Okay, you have to be instructed in the use of these tools. It's the same thing with the tools of the covenant of Christ. Okay, we don't want to misuse the knowledge and the tools of Christ, do we? We want to be instructed in the proper use, okay, of these things. It's the same thing you see with the priesthood, the Levitical priesthood. Okay, the priests had to be instructed in that. Okay, they could not use strange fire. They could not bring a bick to the altar, okay, and light the fire themselves and spray a little lighter fluid on the fire there and light it. What happened? Okay, God, okay, reached out and put them to death that did that. Okay, they uh, they had to be instructed in the framework of the knowledge, okay, and the due order, okay, of the priesthood. That there was an ordered activity, okay, that had to be followed. Right. This is what God provides to us for the priesthood of Christ as well. Okay, and the knowledge has to be placed in order. Okay, and he does that through his sanctified knowledge stewards, which is why you'll read all throughout the epistles to despise not government and dignities. Okay, this is the government of God. Okay, despise not. Well, what do people do today? They say we don't need apostles today. Why? Because they don't want anybody to challenge their imagination. Okay, they've written millions of books about Christianity, and yet faith remains a struggle. Okay, nobody is ceasing from sin. Okay, what's Apostle Peter talking about here? Okay, this wasn't a vain projection or some false hope he's setting. This is Christ he's talking about. Okay, this is our hope in Christ, and yet do you see that in all of these millions of books being written today? Okay, all of these so-called teachers that we have, okay, that are trying to instruct the church, okay, from the various philosophies of the world and trying to provide guidance for faith out of darkness. Okay, they don't they don't understand this promise or this hope that we have in Christ, and they can't provide any direction into it. And why is that? Because they're not working the knowledge and the tools and the power of God. Okay, and we don't need that anymore. All right, the time has come, okay, for the church to forsake darkness, to be separate from sin, to cease from sin and abide in Christ. Okay, just as Jesus said, okay, go and sin no more. Okay, or in other words, follow me, join yourself to me. Okay, no longer walk in darkness. Okay, the time has now come for the Father to be worshipped in spirit and in truth. Okay, this is the knowledge and the tools of the new covenant priesthood. Okay, and so he provided this record. Okay, this record of restricting himself from using the power of his divinity. He remained within the restrictions. This is a choice that he made to exercise himself within these restrictions. Okay, uh, in order to set the pattern for overcoming that. We also, okay, could deny ourselves, okay, the power of our principle and our aspiration in order to abide in Christ. Okay? In order to abide in Christ, we have to put to death the flesh, the power of the flesh, the principle and the aspiration of man. Okay, our own principles and aspirations have to be replaced with faith and truth. Okay, we have to work with the power and the knowledge of Christ. okay, in order to put to death the old man. For the new man to live in us, okay, we have to put to death the old man. Okay, this is a choice we make every day as we follow the same pattern. This is what he's talking about, the same mind, the same pattern. Okay, suffering in the flesh. We put to death, okay, and restrict those powers in order to work within uh, the boundaries of the covenant knowledge of Christ, and to work with the tools, the power of His Spirit. We're submitting to a greater power. Okay, and so that we who are in the flesh could follow the same pattern, He set this pattern for us while in the form of flesh. Okay, this is why He took the form of flesh, so that He could set this pattern for us. Okay, that we could overcome by this pattern. Okay, so there's a lot of people that are trying to set another record for overcoming, and you can't do it. Okay? And they promise a great many things. Okay, and there's a great show. They use through their words, the music, the lighting, all of these things, they try to make a show of power. Okay, yet there's no power in that. The power is in godliness. It's in fruit bearing. Okay, we can only bear forth the fruit of Christ through this pattern. This is the pattern sanctified by God that the Spirit of God will enter into to form Christ within your heart. Okay, there is no other pattern. Right? This is it. Right? Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." There is no other way. There's no other truth. There is no other life. Okay, apart from Christ. This is it, and it's time to forsake these other vain philosophies and enter into Christ and abide in Him. Okay, the time is now to enter into the ark for our deliverance. Okay, this knowledge of Christ, as we talked about before, is that ark. Okay, from which we are to be delivered. Okay, from the wrath of God to come. The wrath of God is at hand. Okay, and we are reaching that time to that those that don't have their vessels full, okay, are going to be caught unaware. Okay, and there's no reason to be caught unaware. Okay, that this knowledge is being preached. Okay, it's time to embrace this knowledge. Okay, and to receive this knowledge within your heart, and then to share this knowledge with one another. Okay, this is the this is the time. This is the time for our overcoming. But first, we ourselves must overcome. Okay, we have to be instructed. Our separation cleansing is necessary before we can assist others. Okay, so it's time to come in, be healed, have your bandages your wounds bandaged. Okay, have your legs set. Okay, we can assist you with that. Okay, and as you do that, we'll strengthen you. We'll provide you with the knowledge of Christ for substance, which will strengthen you for faith. Okay, you get back up on your own 2 feet, and you'll now learn to walk again. Okay, because you've been through quite a battle. All right, the system of sin is very devastating. Okay, but the bones can be set. Okay, you can be strengthened. Okay, and then you'll learn to walk again. And as you learn to walk again, okay, you begin to function in the priesthood. Okay, now all of a sudden you learn to walk with the power of the Spirit. Okay, it's a whole process that we have to go through. I had to go through this process as well. So also did Chief Apostle Eric. So did Chief Apostle Peter here. Okay, and Paul and Timothy. All of these, they had to go through the same process. Okay, they all had to put to death the principle and the aspiration in order to function with the knowledge and power of Christ. Okay, and we all must go through this. We're all called to the priesthood. Everybody's looking for their calling. God has called us all to the priesthood. Okay, don't seek a calling outside of Christ. Okay, He's called us to the priesthood. Therefore, come into Him. Okay, He stands at the door and knocks. Open the door and enter into Christ. Okay, receive of His knowledge. Okay, receive of His instruction. Thank Him for providing those to assist us and instruct us in this doctrine. Okay, that this doctrine is being revealed again in this last time, all right, to prepare us so that we can prepare ourselves. And we can enter into Christ and be preserved by Him. Okay, our refuge in Christ is not apart from His government, truth, and Spirit. Okay, the government, truth, and Spirit of God is our refuge. Okay, you see this symbolized in the Ark of the Covenant. But let's go on here. All right, so having the same mind has to do with the same pattern: grace and suffering, suffering and glory. Right, being mindful of God's plan and obedient to His voice. Well, if you don't know what the plan of God is, okay, if you don't know as concerning the weeks, okay, and the times, if you don't understand the distinction between the covenants, okay, you end up mixing all of these things together and become very confused. right? If you don't know what the plan of God is, then you don't know what makes you part of the plan of God and what makes you outside of that plan. Okay? So you need to be instructed in this knowledge. Okay? So you need to be mindful of his plan, obedient to his voice. Okay? And the voice of God continues to speak of Christ. Okay? So ceasing from sin, now, like I said, sin's a system, and it speaks of the kingdom of darkness. Okay? And let's see, I touched on this here. All right, so like I said, some of these notes I've already covered in what I've been sharing here. So truth gives power to the will for faith. All right. So truth is that knowledge, that framework of knowledge must be set within the heart, and it gives power to the will for faith. Okay. The will has to do with that the very essence of who you are. Right. The will is contained within the soul, which is contained within the spirit. Okay, which is within the body. The body is a temporary vessel. Okay, right? You are your spirit, your soul, and your will. Okay, the body is like a taxi cab that you're taking. Okay, to get around in this dimension. Okay, it's temporary, but you, okay, are your spirit, soul, and your will. Okay, truth gives power to the will for faith because truth, okay, allows you to restrict the exercising of your will to the things that God has sanctified. Okay, without truth, you won't know that. So you're going to join yourself to anything that looks of value to you. Okay, so you might lean on, like, say for instance, you might step out onto some ice that ends up cracking under your feet, right? And you go down, right? And now you're underwater and you're under the ice. Okay, it's because you didn't know any better. All right. Well, truth would teach you, all right, to remain within the path that's been set. Okay, which is a sure path in which your footing is assured. Okay, so with truth, okay, exercising your faith with that knowledge, okay, would assist you from avoiding those obstacles, wouldn't it? Right? Okay, same thing with faith, right? That you would know that God says, touch these, don't touch these. Okay, you see the same thing in the old covenant. Okay, but the tools have changed. All right, the covenants have changed, the tools have changed. Okay, now it's all the things of the Spirit, which is why you see in the epistles the apostles talking about, no longer embracing the rudimentary things of the world. Okay, those things that death was able to enter into, we're no longer using those things. Those things are no longer sanctified. Those are the things. Those things are now past. Okay, Christ brought that covenant of types and shadows to completion. Now we live in the reality of Christ, in the power of the Spirit. Okay, all things of Christ, the tools of the covenant that join us to Him, are of the Spirit. Okay, and truth instructs us in the use of those things. First, identifying what it is that God has sanctified for faith, which is government, truth, and spirit, prayer, preaching, and prophecy, gifts, callings, and graces of God. Okay, what is He provided with truth has to do with this entire foundation of knowledge. Okay, of each of the elements of the gospel that make up the whole stones of the altar of Christ. Okay, and so you can see how Christ is in all of this. This is Christ. Okay, that our faith functions within this system. Okay, we have ceased from sin. Um, And so the imagination must be restricted, as I said, right? Well, what restricts imagination? Truth does, okay? Which is why truth is a great offense to the carnal minded. Okay, they want to continue to work with the imagination. They want to be free to give expression to themselves. Okay, well, faith is an expression of Christ. Okay, so if you want to give expression to Christ, you can't be giving expression to yourself because you're not Christ. Those that want to be free to exercise their imagination to give expression to themselves and glorify God through that, or what are they saying? They're saying, no, God, look at me. Okay, well, guess what's offensive to God? Okay, that's trying to equal Christ apart from Christ, right? To say, no, 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 God, I know you're pleased with Him, but look at me. Okay, that's an offense to God. And this is precisely what those people are doing. And they don't mean to be doing that. They don't know they're doing that. It's out of ignorance that they're doing that, which is why they must be separated and cleansed.